Yesterday, I came across a story that didn't even look real. I thought it was some kind of a prank video where a representative from the American Heart Association was arguing against a bill that would stop people from using food stamps to buy soda and candy.
Yesterday, I testified at the Texas State Capitol for SB 379. SB 379 is a necessary step to align SNAP with its mission, which aims to eliminate cookies, soda, and candy from purchasing items under the food stamp program. You will not believe who actually showed up in opposition to this bill.
My name is Alec Puente, and I'm the Director of Government Relations for the American Heart Association. I'm here to testify today in opposition to Senate Bill 379.
The American Heart Association. And I was not the only one who was surprised by this.
That might be the surprise of the session so far.
Here's what the American Heart Association representative had to say.
The Heart Association is concerned about potential impacts of this bill on participation and population health. We get into the other issues of how exactly we define a lot of these things.
Here's what I was arguing for in my testimony for the bill. America has an obesity crisis, and products like soda and candy funded by SNAP are making it worse. In 2014, we stood up against addictive products in SNAP by removing tobacco and alcohol. Now, a decade later, it is time we do the same for candy and soda. Although this shouldn't come as a huge surprise when we look at who the American Heart Association has accepted donations from in the past, which is largely big pharmaceutical companies and even big food companies like Kellogg's and Pepsi. Thank you to Senator Kolkhorst for actually calling him out.
I would encourage you to look at what it restricts.
Look, folks, you can argue that people should have a right to use those stamps to buy any kind of food they want. However, why in the world would a nonprofit organization like the AHA try to make sure that people can keep eating unhealthy food? Aren't they trying to reduce the number of heart patients in this country? They're acting like a kind drug dealer who is more than happy to give you a discount and even give you free stuff, but he won't be happy if you just stop putting that junk in your body. But that's the thing about these nonprofits. At the end of the day, they are all here to keep us sick or they won't be needed anymore. They'll give you medicine and even pay for your heart surgery, but they won't let us end obesity in this country, even though we are by far the most obese nation in the world. And these snacks don't just make you fat, they also have other dangerous ingredients.
This is a list of ingredients from foods: carrageenan, riboflavin, monosodium glutamate, and 20 others that I can't pronounce.
It doesn't sound good. Polysorbate 80, that stuff's really bad. Sodium cereal.
Sodium steroid lactylate. I think you're getting the picture that you can't pronounce this stuff.
Sodium gilionate. Titanium dioxide. Polysorbate 80, BHT, TBHQ. The Make America Healthy Again movement is the strongest movement in America because it contains moms.
And the most exciting thing today is dozens of MAHA moms that have made their way to Washington, D.C. to continue the righteous work to ensure that we have the best, the safest, and the most transparent food supply in American history, as we all work as a MAHA mom myself to ensure that all of our kids going forward can live a healthy, incredible life that we can provide in this country.
If you are an American company poisoning us with ingredients you don't use in other countries, we're coming for you.
And that's the reason why so many people have been standing behind Bobby Kennedy. They don't give a shit about what he did 50 years ago. All they care about is that right now he's the only politician who's trying to make us healthier.
This mass experiment on the American population with grass has, in short, been a catastrophe. We now have around 10,000 chemicals in our food. Europe has only 400. For example, titanium dioxide, potentially linked to DNA damage and cancer, is banned in the EU, but it's in our children's food. Potassium bromate, a suspected carcinogen, banned in Europe and Japan. And you guessed it, it's in our children's bread. Food dyes such as red dye 40 and yellow 5 and 6 come with warning labels in Europe. They're linked to behavioral issues in children, but in the U.S., they're generally recognized as safe. I can't really blame the food companies. They're just doing what we've allowed them to get away with. I am today directing the FDA commissioner to start the process of changing the rules to eliminate the self-affirming GRAS pathway for new ingredients. I'm also directing the FDA and NIH to ramp up post-market assessments of GRAS chemicals currently in our food so that we can rapidly identify the compounds that are making Americans so sick, and so that American consumers and regulators can make informed decisions.
Biden in. They knew he was senile. I knew he was senile because his sister told a friend of mine that. So if I knew as a right-wing talk show host, then trust me, every big don. Jeffrey Katzenberg knew. I mean, come on.
And I hope he looks into why the AHA got involved in this. Another thing we have to look into is this Biden auto pen scandal. Did you know that a lot of the orders issued by Joe Biden weren't actually signed by Biden at all? They were signed by an auto pen.
If we had a competent president, it would not have happened. The man was grossly incompetent. All you have to do is take a look at he signs by auto pen. Who was signing all this stuff by auto pen? Who would think you signed important documents by auto pen? You know, these are major documents you're signing. You're proud to sign them. You have your signature on something. In 300 years, they say, oh, look, can you imagine? Everything was signed by auto pen, almost everything. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing. So, should have never happened.
Now there's a great investigation by this X account where they straight up showed how someone has been using the auto pen to sign in Biden's place for years. For instance, on December 30th, 2022, Joe Biden was on a golfing vacation in the Virgin Islands, and somehow he also pardoned 6 criminals, one of whom was in jail for second-degree murder. And what really sent me over the edge is he also didn't sign the pardons for people like Anthony Fauci and Liz Cheney. Now, it's already been exposed how Biden wasn't even lucid for many hours every single day.
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, have been among them are some people who have raised a lot of money for him. 6 months particularly, there has been a marked incidence of cognitive decline and physical infirmity.
In fact, he'd become so incompetent that they had to build a fake Oval Office so he could speak while sitting in front of a teleprompter.
You guys, I just finished a show. Look at the room that they put me in. We're in Biden's fake Oval Office, everybody. And I've actually figured this out. I now know why. I now get it. Turn the camera around. There is a screen, teleprompter to the face. All I can say is the last administration was a disgrace.
So, my question is, who the hell was using that auto pen, and when are we going to bring them to justice? Because this auto pen was used to make the biggest and most controversial decisions of the last 5 years.
This is wild. An investigation done by the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project discovered that almost every single signature of Joe Biden's during his presidency was signed using an auto pen, meaning that all of the documents that he signed were being used by a computer-saved signature and not done by hand. They found that almost every signature was auto pen, except for one of the most famous ones on the letter where he was announcing he was dropping out for running for president last election. As you can see here, auto pen, and then here it is on the letter of him dropping out of the race. Clearly a different signature, and you can see also it is underlined. Now, auto pen is not new. It's legally been around for the president since 2005, since President Bush's presidency, but it's typically used while presidents are on vacation, like Barack Obama in 2013. The 60 plus days that President Trump has been president, we've watched him by hand sign a whole lot of executive orders and documents. So now people are bringing up the 7 pardons that were signed on January 19th, President Joe Biden's last day in office, saying that they were all auto pen.
So as much as I appreciate President Trump for raising this issue on national TV, I want him to start an investigation to find out who the hell was running our country. Another person I want to talk about today is Pam Bondi, because so far she has not delivered anything she promised. In fact, this tweet sums up perfectly how well she's performed so far. It's day 42 of Pam Bondi's tenure as AG, and here's her record so far. Arrests, 0. Investigations, 0. Strongly worded letters, 2. Fox News appearances, 42. When is she going to start working? Now, I know we don't like to criticize her. And trust me, I read all the comments and emails that you send my way. But folks, you gotta wake up. We cannot become sheep and get blinded by our optimism. I've seen them cover up the horrors of Lahaina, Maui, and North Carolina in broad daylight. And back then, people like Pam Bondi promised to expose all these crimes. But now it looks like if we don't force her hand, she might never do it. In fact, people connected to this case are already losing hope.
And have you heard anything on when Pam Bondi will release the Epstein files?
I actually bugged the DOJ today about that and the FBI, so I don't speak on behalf of the DOJ or the FBI, but I am hearing that they are reviewing documents. We are pushing for this release. No one is above the law, period. The fact that no one's sitting in jail or has been charged for what Jeffrey Epstein did is pretty abhorrent, so I look forward to the AG bringing charges, investigating, and I would say that if the AG does this, she'll be one of the best AGs in U.S. history. If she doesn't do this, then it is what it is.
Thank you.
It is what it is. That's the attitude we have regarding extremely important issues like the Epstein files. And you're telling me I shouldn't criticize these politicians. Screw that. We deserve answers, and the people who are hiding these files need to be in jail.
A source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands.
And yet, here's the head of the FBI, SDNY, whose department was keeping the files away from our Department of Justice. They're treating him like a hero for protecting these monsters. God bless America. But things aren't just going downhill in this country. We already know the situation in Canada, where one World Economic Forum nutjob was replaced by a woke banker.
There's a fever gripping America. And while it rages, Canadians will remain resolute and true to our values. While America engages in a war on woke, Canadians will continue to value inclusiveness.
And now we're finding out that BlackRock is ready to gobble up the farmland in the UK as well. I mean, just listen to what the British Prime Minister said about their agriculture policy and the kind of response it received from the opposition.
It's a record amount. We've set out the roadmap for farming, which has been welcomed by farmers. Many thousands of farms have benefited from the farming schemes. But she talks about prices. Wages are going up higher than prices. That's the first in a long time that's happened.
Of this government can be summarised in 3 sentences. They will halt any farming and environmental scheme on which farmers rely without warning, without consultation, and using criteria they have never before defined. The state will seize their farmland at will through the compulsory purchase orders that were announced yesterday in the planning bill. And if families have managed to cling on to their farms despite all of this, then Labour will tax them for dying.
And this all started after Prime Minister Keir Starmer made this tweet. I'm determined to deliver growth, create wealth, and put more money in people's pockets. This can only be achieved by working in partnership with leading businesses like BlackRock to capitalize on the UK's position as a world-leading hub for investment. And that, my friends, is how you sell your soul to the devil. I feel bad for the people in the UK because we know how ruthless BlackRock can be when it goes on a land-grabbing campaign. As always, let me know what you guys think about everything we just shared in this video. Do you think we need to investigate these organizations that are keeping us sick? Also, should the president be allowed to sign such important documents with an auto pen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.